let's have this conversation. Let's chat.
Open the floor.
Yeah. I hope that helps. I mean, we can introduce everybody. I think that's a good place to start. Because so Betty Baker, you work with. I've got it written down here. It's slipped my mind. It's
I work
Professional
at Ashley
Kirby.
Furniture.
Ashley Furniture. That's it. Ashley just completely slipped my mind there for some reason. But yes, Ashley Furniture, and part of that conversation was that most people think of Ashley Furniture, they just think of a shop. They don't think of a big company that's doing so many things in the background. Chin-loo works with the 3D Experience Lab and does a lot of great things on the user experience side and does a lot of the Magic Wheelchair stuff. You've done, 3 builds now with Magic Wheelchair?
Yeah, three from our office. Yep.
3 builds. The latest one being.
Yeah, just so you guys know, I'm also a mechanical engineer, and just went into industry with Polaroid for a while before I jumped ship. But yeah.
And Meaghan, like we said, she runs the Mavens of Manufacturing podcast, but I'm not 100% sure the rest of your background. So I'll let you introduce what else you do other than the Mavens of Manufacturing podcast.
Yeah, so I'm a technical writer by trade. I had the typical experience here in the United States where I went through high school not really knowing what I wanted to do, not necessarily guided into any kind of STEM opportunities. I've always been good at writing, so that's what I got stamped with. You are an English major, you need to do something with words and go in the writing direction. And then I was pressured by my parents to kind of go into college when I wasn't ready. Almost flunked out twice. And then when I got pregnant with my daughter, that was kind of my kick in the rear to really get serious about being successful. So I went with professional and technical writing and learned the theory of words and how they can be interpreted differently among different cultures and areas of the world. And that's really important to know in terms of technical information, because you don't want to misinterpret something in the technical world because it could be catastrophic. So one of my favorite projects back in the day was writing an instruction manual on how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And our instructor actually went through all of our instructions, and it was really interesting to see how he interpreted all of our projects differently and where the peanut butter and jelly sandwich ended up. Sometimes he couldn't open the jar of peanut butter. Sometimes it ended up on the floor. Like, it was just really cool. So I decided to pursue that. And my first career was in a trade publication industry. And that's where I really fell in love with engineering and manufacturing. Fast forward to today, I was sick and tired of seeing all of these great panel discussions happening on LinkedIn and all of the women that I met through my writing career not being represented in those conversations. So I decided to create Mavens of Manufacturing and provide a platform for them to brag about what they were doing in the sector. And now it's grown really, really big, and I'm really excited because I'm hearing all these wonderful stories, and my mission is to help close the skills gap as well as the gender gap. So now I'm getting more involved with high schools and middle schools and helping teachers get connected to some of the manufacturers within their communities so that we can start getting the next generation really excited about the career pathways available to them.
That's great. That's really, really cool. I mean, like for my Jonny and our Owl Call podcast platform, it's just a place for us to socialize with all the people that we hang out with every year, because the pandemic taught us one thing, is that we only see these people once a year. Let's try and make it.
We only see each other once a year.
Yeah, we see each other once a year. And we met at 3D Experience World. Yeah, Melissa, I'll let you introduce yourself and what you do at Tech Women as well.
Yeah, of course. I'm the managing director of Tech Women. Tech Women's a engineering consultancy. That's our core business, but we devote half our time to promoting science, technology, engineering, and maths through STEM activity days. And we've got an ambassador program. And we've been really busy over the last couple of months going into primary and secondary schools. We did a SolidWorks focused engineering day in January, and that was amazing, really, going in to teach the year 9s who had never used any design software before and teaching them about SolidWorks. to the point where they could actually create designs and work on a design project at the end of the day was really, really great. Yeah.
Yeah, we that's one thing I really wish that I had is you know, the ability to see all the kind of softwares and design. I kind of just stumbled into product design because I thought, you know, I want, the truth being, my girlfriend went to a different city for university, and I want to go to that same city. We're married now anyway, so. But yeah, I found
Happy ending.
Yeah, happy ending. But I found that, you know, I just looked at a list of things. I'll try that one. And as the head of department was telling me what it's about and saying to me that, like, for example, this mouse here, someone sat in a 3D software and designed that you know, that washing machine over there, someone designed it, and that blew my mind because I'm always the kind of person looking at something and how's that made? Yeah. So I think going into schools at an earlier age and showing them what's available and what's out there, and that kind of ties into Betty Baker and what she does. And I'll let you explain a bit more about that, Betty, of showing them that it's, you know, when it comes to designing electronic, for example, there's so many different people involved with it. And it's understanding that it's not just a product. There's teams behind it innovating something and really trying hard to create something new. I'll let Bridie explain what she does with DriveWorks and how she's all involved with this wonderful world of SolidWorks.
Thanks, Kirby. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm a bit different because I'm not actually an engineer, but it doesn't mean that I don't get to be involved with all the great things to do with engineering, and in particularly, I think as we all speak on this group here, getting more women excited about engineering and getting not even just women, just young people excited about engineering and getting them excited about digital careers and all the wonderful opportunities and careers opportunities that are available as a result of, you know, pursuing that kind of career path from an early age. So at DriveWorks, we kind of reach lots of, I guess, different levels of students. So we work really locally with our local community, with local high schools, telling them all about digital careers and the wide variety of roles, from marketing to, you know, tech roles, to computer science, to, you know, operations, to sales. So, you know, there's huge depth of career paths that can be chosen, not necessarily just you need to be an engineer. You can actually do all of these wonderful things, and you've got all these amazing skills to be able to do that, from, you know, communication to language, that kind of thing. To kind of progress into actually working with university students. So, you know, they're already on that career path a bit more. They've got a bit more of an idea of what they want to do. So working with engineering students to kind of give them extra qualifications. So you'll probably see behind me, I've put this up because the background behind me is not very nice with my front door. But yeah, the Drivers Express certification, obviously, we're all SolidWorks users here, giving them an extra qualification in design automation. So we go into schools and teach university students all about DriveWorks Express, and, you know, how they can, you know, do something a bit different with engineering, which is also great for us because some of those students come and work for us in the end, or we can tell our customers and other users about it. So yeah, we get to reach a lot of different people through, you know, DriveWorks and through, you know, working within this great community that is, you know, first and foremost engineering. That's
awesome. Yeah, you guys, you support the user groups as well, and you really help. You and Heather do a smashing job with that. And it's always fun to kind of email you, and we're always excited to say, we got a new meeting. You know, it's always fun. And then Maria, I'll let you also, with DriveWorks and that, and you can tell us more about what you do. You're muted.
So I'm really pleased to be here as well. I too am sporting the DriveWorks logo here. And I set up the company with Glenn Smith, mechanical engineer, SolidWorks user, back in 2001. And actually the very fact that Bridie is here today as part of our company, and Bridie didn't have a background as an engineer, but is speaking so passionately about it, and that within our whole organization, although we're a software development company and all our engineers are SolidWorks engineers, we're a very diverse community. And having those different perspectives, having a real blend of genders within the company, I think gives us an extra edge. It really helps us to see things from many different perspectives. Yes. And as Bridie mentioned a moment ago, the work that we've done in the community has been really exciting, because we've done specific days where we've invited students and young people to hear about a day in the life of a software company, and we've introduced them to all of those different roles. And it often starts out by us asking them, do you have a smartphone? And we get them to show us a smartphone, maybe talk about it a little bit. And people who might have thought, well, I don't want to work in technology, I'm not interested in digital, what's engineering? I don't understand all of these things. Looking at that phone to start off with, which is ubiquitous. Everybody has one nowadays, and most of the young people, it's attached to their hips. Getting them talking about that. Why did they choose that particular model? How do they think it was developed? What are all the components that go into it? Who came up with the design? How was it tested? How's it marketed? All of those different things that Bridie mentioned a moment ago are the things that we live and breathe every day. And so we're wanting to say to people, it's fine, it's okay, don't be scared of technology. But I'm quite a bit older than Bridie, and we both studied languages. And I can remember I met a university professor after I'd graduated from my modern languages degree. And he was trying to persuade me to do a master's in computer science. And back then, and it was quite some time ago, I was thinking, what? Computer science? Why would I want to do that? It's just going to be full of nerdy men. I won't stand a chance of, what will I do on this course? But actually looking back at it now, I think I would have loved the course and I would have really enjoyed doing it. So instead, my career followed different paths, and now we've been running DriveWorks for 21 years. Just this last week, we celebrated our birthday, yes. And I have had access to all of these amazing products that have been developed. I love meeting our customers, finding out what they've designed. Betty, I know that the products that you design, we've seen them many times, and it's just fascinating, whether or not whatever, we have all of the things around us in our world. Somebody's had to come up with that concept, somebody's had to think about the use case for it. So it is integral to what we're doing, and it shouldn't be restricted to one particular gender. So it's great that we're all having the opportunity to do these things now.
Yeah. Then we'll circle back to Chin. Go for it, Jonny.
What?
You going to say something?
No.
Oh, okay, cool. You're just mumbling.
I was going to say something, if I may.
Go for it, Ed.
So, of course, Ed.
Yeah. So understanding that the engineering field is a male-dominated field, and I love the fact that we're getting more females into that occupation, because I think we need more of that. Mm-hmm. What is, and you can collectively answer one at a time, and it doesn't matter to me, what is the biggest obstacle you faced in trying to get where you got? And I know this can be different for everyone, but I'm curious.
Yeah, definitely.
Very good question, Ed.
I don't mind going first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go for it.
For me, it was the fear of the unknown, I guess. You might have heard about my career pathway. I studied aeronautical engineering as my degree, but before that, I took quite a while really to figure out what I wanted to do, and engineering was almost like my last resort. I kind of luckily stumbled across it at the end. I was always pushed down science, medicine, art, design, but it was never really engineering. And when I was younger, I always thought, right, engineering, working in a factory, kind of get my hands dirty a little. It always has that stereotype associated with it. And that is something that put me off. And when I realized I wanted to do engineering, it was a couple of weeks before I started uni. I just thought, how many girls is actually going to be on this course? Like it kind of like, it starts playing around in your head. Now, there's about 100 of us in the first year, and there's 5 girls. And you think, wow, that's a really low number.
That's better than my ratio was, Melissa. There was 240 people on my course, and 3 were girls.
Wow. See, yeah, it's such a low figure, and it's such a shame, because you're not doing anything that's out of the box, a bit different. Everyone is capable. Everyone is doing the same thing, studying the same thing. So throughout my career, I was thinking, why is there so few females? And it's all down to not really having role models. When I was studying, I didn't have anyone to look up to that kind of broke the stereotype for engineering, someone to just ask for advice, really. And I always try and make myself be that person now. We do a lot of mentoring, a lot of volunteering. Just speaking to someone sometimes makes the world of a difference. And also, so role models, and also kind of breaking that stereotype. Now, I probably don't look like the stereotypical engineer, but I'm a chartered engineer and I'm 27. So even showing that you can be a chartered engineer at a young age. Normally when you think about being chartered, you think maybe they're a little bit older, maybe about 40, 50 years old. You've had a lot of experience, but there's a lot that you can do to progress to your career very quickly.
I mean,
Can I add to? Oops. I was going to add to the comment about school, and also just answer Ed's question too. So I went to, as I mentioned, I'm a mechanical engineer. So I went to a tech school where I think the ratio overall was 7 male to 1 female. But in the mechanical engineering school, every class I was in, I was either the only female or one of 2. And I remember my biggest hurdle back then was all of the examples that were ever used in the course was always something I had no idea about. It was usually like the carburetor or like the underside of some strange machine that I'd never seen, and was very much a, the examples that were always talked about were things that I never come across in day to day. I had no idea what the furnace of a HVAC system looked like, but all of the examples were very much there. And then I look around and the guys are just like, yeah, well, I don't know if they were pretending, but I was like, I have no idea what that thing does and what that means. So that was like one of the things that really caused my self-confidence to drop very quickly in the beginning. So what I managed to do as I kind of progressed in my career was somehow, fortunately, have people around me that were advocates who really stepped up, and they were female managers, male managers, whomever, but they were the brave ones to stand up and say, hey, I know, I would basically be in a meeting, one female out of like a large group of male, suggesting an idea for something. And the conversation will just move on as if I said nothing. And then later on, like a few moments later, another male colleague would say something, exactly the same idea. And you're like, oh yeah, let's try that. I'm like, what just happened? And
I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads here, so I'm thinking this resonates with all the women that are on this call.
What's something interesting is so I work with a lot of 3D printers, industrial grade 3D printers, and I work a lot with hobbyists and that stuff. That's kind of how I've started off. I was making props from video games and that, and you see this happen a lot in the 3D printing community right now. Is that people will be like, someone will ask a really kind of basic question. If you know about 3D printers, you know the answer, and someone would ask one of those questions in the community, and they'll just get slated by everybody. It's like, oh, how could you not know? Why are you getting into this industry? And a lot of the time, whenever I see this, I go in there and remind them. It's like, at some point you knew nothing.
You have to start somewhere.
Yeah, you have to start something. Yeah, maybe if it's to do with cars, maybe men know a lot more because it's just that's what they know. But at some point, they didn't know about that stuff. So why can't they stop and just say, oh, you don't know what this component is? Let me explain and show you what it is and how it'll work.
But there's one equation here that kind of makes me go sideways. Is they were asked the same question, but because they're a woman,
they were approached and treated differently.
Yes.
So what in the brain says, oh, you're a woman, there's no way you can know that answer? I want to know what in the brain, especially from a male perspective, says because you're a woman, you don't know the answer. But to your credit, we have to learn it somewhere too.
Yeah, I mean, there's never. I'll let you.
I don't think all guys are saying, you don't know the answer. I think there are differences between men and women in terms of how we interact socially. I think women are more people pleasers, so we don't want to put ourselves in a situation where we might make someone angry, and versus men who are naturally just more competitive. They really thrive on performance-based things, and this is seen in psychological studies and everything. So when men are in a room full of men, it's this big competition, right? It's the loudest and the more forceful personalities that seem to get the most attention, where women are more reserved in those types of situations. So that's where it's really important for men to be advocates for women in that space too. If they can see that a woman has something to say, call them out, invite them into the conversation, and support them when they're talking. And in Chin-loo's situation, when she did have an idea, and then a few moments later, another person took that idea and made it their own, it's really important for leaders in that room to say, well, yeah, Chin-loo
Recognize that.
mentioned this before. Chin, can you elaborate on that some more and let us know your insights on that? So it's really a balancing act, and just making, you know, that collaboration more of a norm than what we're used to.
Yeah, and I totally want to emphasize what you just said, because what I noticed as a manager now is that I'm applying that advocacy across the board. It's not even a gender thing, and I see that, you know, as a newcomer, new hire, the same kind of like insecurity, lack of you know, self-confidence is plaguing everyone. I mean, probably more so women, because in the way we, like you said, we have this mentality of just wanting to please everyone, making everything good. But exactly like that, in those conversations, when someone is either not participating, like not having a chance to, and you look like they look like they want to say something, I always call them out to say, looks like you wanted to say something, please do. Or if someone like mumbles something on the side, I will always make a note, because afterwards I'll bring back and say, you mentioned this, can you please? And I think it applies across the board. It really is not a gender thing. And I think if you can do that as an advocate, you're good across the board. So absolutely, I totally agree with you, Meaghan.
I mean, this is exactly what I was hoping for this conversation. Like, you know, we need to understand, and a lot of other people need to understand, that what is it that will help make it easier, you know, to feel more comfortable. It's really great for you guys who are leaders in this community, kind of helping share that, you know, it's okay to allow women to share their idea, because there's nothing wrong with that idea. Maybe I can add to it and, you know, work together to improve it. But, you know, all opinions are valid, and that they should be expressed.
Yeah, so I'm a parent too. I have 2 sons. And so I think it's the way you bring up your children as well, and you talk about inclusivity is really important. So I've worked really hard with both of my boys, and I hope that generationally they are of the group of people now who'll be very supportive and involve everyone in conversation.
Yeah,
So
I think going
Go ahead, Betty.
back to Ed's statement, you know, it's just that stereotype. You know, I'm much older, so when I went to school, it was decades ago, of course, and I was the only female in all of my classes, the only female at my job, the only female in all my meetings. But you know, again, it's boys are supposed to work on cars and play with cars. Girls are supposed to play with dolls. You know, it just, things are getting much better nowadays. But, you know, that's kind of where it all stemmed from and came from. You know, I can remember being at a meeting, and there was a much older gentleman. And it's like, when I spoke up, it was like, you know, don't have his exact words right now, but it was like, why are you here? You know?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, you know, yeah. So it's been tough.
I mean, I feel like the only time you can ask that question is if you want to see their story and learn more about someone.
But that's brutal though. That's literally taking the knife and just stabbing you right in the neck. I mean, talk about, see you later, buddy. I don't want to do this anymore. That's deflating. That's super deflating.
So I want to add to what Betty just said. I absolutely agree that there's a a generation gap. Like what we went through is different than I think a lot of the younger generation is going through. But I have to tell you, culturally, between different ethnic groups, like it's actually still, we can't just focus on kind of the generational gap that appears in America. Like some of those things that I felt was like I was in Japan, or I was in like an Asian country where it's still a very patriarchal kind of society, where in a meeting, in a professional surrounding, there is definitely a hierarchy that still is maintained. So you have to be aware of this, especially when you are a director or a manager in an American company and you visit these other companies, and you both want to be respectful, but also be aware that you're representing, you know, a large group of people similar to yourself. And it's a struggle sometimes. I really have I don't know if the rest of the women here have ever experienced that, but I have nights where I can't fall asleep because I'm like, should I have done something differently? You know, like it's tough.
Well,
Yeah,
Chin-loo,
gaining that respect. That's the big thing. That was the hardest thing.
From a male perspective, we do that too at night. Should I have said something? So it goes both ways. Or should I have not said something?
Exactly. Should I have not?
Should I have not said something?
I was gonna say, I commend you for being in this conversation. I have to tell, like, when I have conversation with Sal, he's just like, I'm not saying anything.
I had my own business for 11 years. I had a female employee working for me. Matter of fact, I'm trying to get her to work at Keurig because she's a rock star. And I lifted her up. I gave her all the opportunities to become that rock star, got her to pass the CSWA and CSWP test. But when she made a mistake, I treated her no different than the guys that work for me. She made a mistake on a 3D part, and I had her go make a new one and mill some of the parts on it. She had to face the same music as everyone else. But I'm always an advocate, girl, guy, doesn't matter. But if you show me you have aptitude and you have heart, that you're in this is something you want to do, I'll lift you every chance I get. When you don't have that heart and that passion, I think it's time you need to go somewhere else. Because I think that's, at the end of the day, you have to love what you do.
Well, I think you made a really good point too, Edson. Like, you know, we're all human, we all make mistakes. And what you did for her, that's going to help her grow as well too, and help increase her confidence level as well. You're letting her fail, you're letting her make mistakes, you're letting her fall forward, which is important in anybody's improvement journey, honestly. And to kind of go off of what Betty said too, I remember when I first started attending trade shows to do different interviews with companies that we were trying to get advertising for, a lot of people thought I was there to be a booth bunny. So there's kind of this misconception with women in the sector that still exists today. It's getting better, it is, because I've seen more men speak up against some of this behavior, but you know, sex sells, and some of these companies were hiring models to come in and stand at their booth just to attract an audience. And I was referred to as a booth bunny several times, and I'm like, no, I'm here to get a story. That's not what I'm here for. They're not paying me for that. But it's just interesting to see how some of that behavior still exists. So it's really important for us to call that out when it happens and have those uncomfortable conversations so that women can feel comfortable to express when something is bothering them. We have to be able to give them a voice when things make them uncomfortable, and be able to support them in those areas too, because sometimes that stuff gets shrugged off your shoulders, and we're told to have thick skin and just, you know, deal with it in a way and maintain our professionalism. And it can really eat away at your confidence when you're told those things. So I'm really happy that you were pushing her to, you know, fail forward and still try it and not give up. Because sometimes when we make mistakes, we have the tendency to kind of eat ourselves up about it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a hard sell. She had passion. Just show me passion. That's all. How I know half the people on this call is because I have passion. I have passion with the SOLIDWORKS tool and the SOLIDWORKS community. I built friendships off that. I know Kirby very well, Jonny very well, Betty. Chin-loo is an employee. I never thought I would know these people on a friend basis. Chin-loo is a good friend. Her husband Sal is a great friend. These people are all friends to me. But again, it's all about a passion. And so I saw that passion in her. So I said, let's make sure you keep going in that direction. Now I had a couple other employees for me. One of them, male. I'm sorry, he couldn't design his way out of a cardboard box. Just, there's no way. And I don't know where he ended up going, but he didn't have the passion. And I tried to mentor and I tried to elevate. He just didn't have what it takes to get to that next level. She did. And I'll support that any day.
Casey,
I have a question.
Go for it, Chin-loo.
I just I have a question. If we run out of things to talk for the group to answer, I'm curious, but I can save it if there was something else on the agenda. Or did you want me to ask?
There's no agenda. Like I said, this
Okay.
is the hallway hangouts. That's why we've got like Dan and Ed and other people in the chat kind of listening in. This is just a conversation. There's no agenda. We just
let it flow,
let
see
it
where it
flow.
goes, and most importantly, give you guys the opportunity to voice what you want to say and see where it
Yeah.
takes us.
I appreciate the opportunity. I mean, I haven't really gotten to meet everyone on this panel. So a question, if you guys are willing to share, is I find it often that I'm underestimated in all aspects. Doesn't matter in what context. As a woman, I think that that is a common theme. So I'm just curious, in what you guys do, how do you use that situation when you're underestimated? Because I've done a couple of things, but I love to hear what you guys do with that. And if you do experience it, that would be a good thing to also validate. But I don't know, anyone jump in.
I have a very competitive nature, so that just fuels me to do better. So when someone underestimates me, I'm right away, I'm like, I'm going to prove you wrong, and I'm going to prove that I can do this better than anyone else. So I actually like, I don't know if this is a sick way, but I actually like being underestimated because it actually makes me work harder.
Builds a fire.
That's the
Yeah.
motivation, right? I agree. Yeah.
I mean, I've kind of been in a situation where like my work is very chilled. It'd be t-shirts and shorts and that stuff. And I was in Germany going around meeting some of the big wigs at the OEMs and that stuff, and walked up to them, and they wouldn't give me the time of day or anything like that. And 5 minutes in the conversation, they really understood that I knew exactly what I was talking about, and they were happy to sit with me for an hour and a half and chat with them. And that made me realize, like, I'm not going to dress up for you guys. I'm just going to be me, because why should I show you that I can do, that I know what I'm talking about? I don't need to prove you anything.
Don't judge a book by its cover, isn't it?
Yeah, I got tattoos of Pokemon on me. It's like, I don't care. I'll just I am what I am, and if you don't like that, tough.
It's also interesting from hearing it from a male perspective too, because if somebody underestimates me, I don't care. It affects me in no way, right? But when I speak to my wife, who's the director for her company, if somebody underestimates her, like, she is immediately drawn to contradict that, right? Where that's like the opposite for me from a male perspective, because the whole system is built for me, right? Everything is focused on the male perspective, and it's interesting to hear and see firsthand how, for example, all of you on the call and my wife have to overcome that kind of thing, because the tide is sort of pushing against you, which sucks to say, but it's true, right?
I mean, I guess with that, because I don't really care if people think of me in one way or anything like that, I shouldn't assume that everybody else, doesn't get offended or upset by that. So, from that, I shouldn't be underestimating anyone. I have that conversation with them and see, what do they know, and if they're struggling with anything, give them a hand, help them out.
Yeah. So,
I had
to
an
Meaghan's,
experience as a, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I had an experience as a young student. As I said, I was studying languages, and my year abroad was in Strasbourg in France. And I had found somewhere to live. It was a student hall of residence. And up until that particular year, it had been an engineering school, and it had only had male residents. And so I arrived, not knowing anybody in the city at all. And the director of the accommodation let me in and wanted to know, whoops, sorry, I just stopped my phone. Wanted to know why I was there. So I explained, and he was so gruff, he was so abrupt, and he said, in all his time of having a hall of residence, he hadn't had women, he didn't want women. He knew his electricity bill was going to go up significantly because I would be using my hairdryer. And we just got off to a really bad start, and it wasn't pleasant at all. So what I decided to do was actually just demonstrate to him that I had lots to offer, and that I would try and bring a female influence to the Hall of Residence. So by the end of the year, we had put on a number of events. We had done social events for all of the people who lived in the residence. We raised money, we bought books, and we created a library so people could read and have a place to hang out, nice comfy chairs. And we actually gave them money back. And I said to him when I left, well, maybe this would contribute towards the electricity bill that I'd clearly been running up. But it was just that whole thing of the guy just didn't know what to expect, and he was uneducated. So I just wanted to try and prove that there was a way that myself, and not just all the other females who ended up living there, but just collectively, we as a group of residents, we did something to show we wanted to change his opinion. So that was just an experience I had.
I mean, that can be helpful, and that's why we wanted to host such a section, is that those that are still struggling to understand it, you know, here's an opportunity to kind of show them that, you know, convince them that there's nothing wrong with allowing women in engineering. And you guys,
it's a very good thing.
Yeah, you guys do awesome things. Betty, you've won awards for the stuff that you do.
Yeah, I agree with Meaghan. I think too, when I'm feeling like that, I'll try to work harder. My whole career, I think I've had to work harder to prove myself and try to show people. It's like, I know what I'm talking about most of the time, some of the time, you know. But again, like Dan, the older I'm getting now, I'm kind of like more like he said, I don't give a shit. It's kind of like, this is me. And if you don't get it, if you don't understand it, I don't care. It's your loss. But many years ago, I wasn't that way. It's been a struggle.
Also, there's been a huge push lately, especially in my industry now, that for DEI initiatives, right? It's been a huge push for inclusivity. And like, I feel like I put effort into, you know, understanding what's going on, and I feel like I understand the issues. But when you actually get down into it and look at your, you know, your biases that you have that you didn't know that you had, that's when you learn about yourself. And I don't think enough people do that. I think it's important for people to realize what their implicit biases are and then work on that. But most people don't do that. It's like an exercise in self-awareness that needs to happen more often.
It's such an interesting topic too, because I've had experience where, you know, I've gotten pushback for Mavens just focusing on women. I was part of a nonprofit women organization, and I pitched them the idea of Mavens, and they were like, no, that's discriminatory against the men who are in the sector. And I'm like, well, we're a women's group and we're supposed to be trying to recruit more women into the sector. So I'm not really understanding how that's discriminatory, considering we're focusing on women through our nonprofit. But there seems to be a lot of anxiousness or uneasiness when you use the term diversity in certain respects. And I never understood why until I forced myself to put myself in uncomfortable positions of asking why. So I've always tried to like get comfortable with the uncomfortable and ask questions, because you really can't understand someone's experience unless you ask them questions about it. And I try to connect myself with different people in the sector that I probably would have never thought about connecting with before, but it really does help you understand like a person's personal experience. There is a gentleman, and I'm gonna name him off here. His name is Andrew Crow, and he has such a fascinating story. And he's really a huge advocate for trying to diversify engineering. and manufacturing, because he has come from those areas in the United States that are low income, poverty stricken, and he has spent time in prison and manufacturing. He advocates for it 100% because it saved his life. And he's trying to get more Black and Brown communities in the United States to pursue manufacturing opportunities. And his message is just so fantastic and wonderful. And I would have never had like conversations with him ever unless I pushed myself to be in those uncomfortable situations, because I was always afraid to offend someone if I asked them something incorrectly. But he was very like appreciative and understanding. So it's really just like getting outside of your head and not overthinking things, and just, you know, having some conversations that you would normally not have because you're worried about offending someone. But I think it's just important to let anyone know, because we're all facing this gap shortage everywhere. It's not just in the United States, it's everywhere. And I think if we can, you know, push ourselves to reach out to those communities that traditionally manufacturing and engineering didn't reach out to before, we can have a lot easier time closing the skills gap. And that's why I love what Melissa's doing with Tech Women. She puts herself out there. We did an interview before, and I know she was really nervous to talk on Mavens in Manufacturing because we get in our head, right? But she has such an important message. So I was really happy that she was pushed herself outside of her comfort zone and have a conversation with me, because what she's doing is really important, especially to the next generation. She's developing these programs to really showcase what you can do within engineering and manufacturing. And that's so important, especially to communities that might not have the opportunities because of funding or their economic state.
I mean, it's your podcast is really, really awesome. You know, I'll put my headphones in while I'm working on my machines and that, and listen away. So I'm either listening to Harry Potter books or podcasts and that stuff, and I've been enjoying yours a lot. And like, for example, Betty Baker, like we've never had, between you and I, a conversation about what you've done and anything like that. We've just always been in the user group network and that. But listening to your story on Meaghan's podcast, I was really, blown away with all the things that you've done at Ashley Furniture. I mean, you're in a position now that you initially had no plan really where you wanted to be. You did you, and you smashing it.
Yeah, thanks. I stumbled into this, and they haven't kicked me out yet.
Well, they haven't kicked Jonny out yet.
Oh,
So.
somehow we're still here, so yeah.
So to get to, I think the comments were discriminatory based on looks, skin color, race, gender, all that good stuff. You guys, some of you might know, I used to have very long hair, very long hair. And I still have tattoos. They were smaller, but now I have half sleeves. So I'm still, to this day, I haven't gone into the office at Keurig. I've been an employee for almost 3 years. Nobody knows I have, oh, nice. Nobody knows I have half sleeves unless I told them. Because to me, because I go back to my long hair days, everyone would always go, look at that long haired kid. I bet she's a drug addict. I bet she's a drunk. I bet she's this, bet she's that. As soon as they started talking to me though, oh yeah, there is a brain underneath all this hair. Oh, I might actually know what I'm talking about. So I understand that discriminatory sense, but do you think with this inclusion that we're all being brought into in the education of a better workplace, do you think that's broadening now? We're not looking so much at the person, we're actually looking at the capabilities and not just looking at the fact that, oh, she's a female, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Do you see a change with that? Is that happening? Is that a real thing? Anybody jump?
That's a very good question, Ed.
I think definitely. I think a big part of that is that there's a wider spectrum of role models now. You don't just have one role model. You can kind of find the role model for you, I guess. And whether that's, I know that me personally, in terms of all of my jobs, even from being a waitress, I've always had a female manager. And I think that has really shaped me. And also not just a female manager, but a very strong female manager, and wouldn't even role model in that sense to look up to from being 15. I think that's massively shaped my career, and obviously now being able to work with Maria, and just having those experiences, I think a huge part of it is, and you know, all of those women that I've been lucky enough to work with have been completely different kind of role models for me and worked in different industries. But a huge part of, you know, what you were talking about there, Ed, is that because of the conversations that, you know, we're having here and the wider conversations that are happening, all of these great initiatives that are run by all these women here and in those workplaces, not just women, but men have so many more role models and can see themselves in so many more people, if that kind of makes sense. And I think that's a huge part of it, and that's only going to grow because someone's going to, you know, have another person that's for them, and then that's going to grow to, you know, I guess it's even like COVID spreads from one person to one person to one person. It does that, but in a much more positive sense of role models and not horrible diseases. But I think that's a big part of it, is this huge spectrum of lots and lots of experiences and talking and just being able to, you know, share that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what you're saying
I
is
can say
as
that
we grow.
Bridie's already been a great role model, and you've influenced a lot of new young people, which is great.
Yeah, I was going to say that all of you are all of you are role models in your own sense, and you know, you may have been inspired by someone, but you're inspiring many other people, and like you said, it just kind of spreads out exponentially. Right.
So as we grow, we'll get better with what we're doing today, as opposed to,
we would hope so,
what we should. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, yeah, and I think it's statistically proven that with diversity, you have a diverse set of thought and you're more innovative. So you want people to be themselves. You don't want that linearity. I mean, it's okay to have it, but I think in my personal experience, I always wanted to get to know the people that look different from me, just because I think they always had an interesting story. Sometimes they didn't, sometimes it was really boring, but I always wanted to know the person with the long hair because they always had the best music options or music suggestions. And that's just my personal experience. So I think, like, if you can look at someone and see what they are, yeah, you're going to have the stereotypical assumptions, because we all have those ingrained in us from our personal experiences. But I think someone that looks different from you, it's always fun to find out, like, why they are the way that they are. Just for me personally, and maybe that's my writing background, my journalism background, I'm always curious. My husband always comments about me not having a filter and asking too personal questions when I first meet someone, but it's just because I have that natural curiosity. I want to know, you know, a person's life story, because that's just part of what I do for a living.
Welcome to my world, Meaghan.
Cross that boundary.
Just cross that boundary. Go for it.
I sometimes feel like, because I, you know, have this willingness to work on myself, that I'm sort of like a mole, right? Because I'll walk into let's say a bar, or I'll walk into a factory, or I'll walk into something else, and people look at me and they'll make assumptions, and they'll start saying things to me that they wouldn't say to a person of color or a woman or whatever else. And, you know, in some situations, I'm like, okay, great, I gotta listen to this. And in some cases, I'm like, look, you can't be saying that kind of thing. So it's interesting from the perspective of a white male, what assumptions people make about you anyways, right? And, you know, one of my sci-fi friends, you know, he would always likes to say, if there was a time machine, I would be okay. I could go back and be dropped anywhere in history and I would be okay. But that's not the case with everybody. And I find that fascinating. Right?
That's a very...
I like to add something too. I think the more, if you were to boil it down to something larger, I definitely see that it's really the environment that's being created by yourself and the people around you, regardless of gender, race, or anything. The environment that is created where people are welcome to share their thoughts, welcome to be there. Because I think if you are acutely aware of the possibilities of the different types of perspectives that could be in that space, then you will catch things like, oh, we just spent half an hour in this meeting talking about kids. Half the people may not even have children. Or, you know, like you might talk about your significant other who happens to be cross-gendered, but then, you know, you isolate these other folks who are not. So it's really just, you just have to be aware of the things you talk about. Are we just talking about sports and whatnot, and like maybe the women here are not into sports? I don't know, but I think it really, you have to be conscious of it, and the conversations you have, the environment you have. And in fact, like for example, at SolidWorks, I've been pushing this thing where, hey everyone, let's just start modeling things that we see every day. Let's not model engines and like blocks, like things that are like what we traditionally think are CAD specific models. It's just like model the hairbrush over there, or that purse over there, or that kid toy over there. And interesting enough, that like from people who are younger or people who are female, they bring in topic items that we normally don't think about. And then we start testing our software with it, and lo and behold, it doesn't work. But because we never model it that way, and then we find bugs. And so it's just that whole like create the environment that's conducive for diverse perspectives, and never judge. Like you guys said, don't judge a book by its cover, but welcome everyone, allow them to speak. And I think that would always be positive. And that's what I've been trying to push for now that I am in that comfortable zone where I don't care what you guys say to me at this point. Doesn't bother me. I'm too old for this crap. But what the 20-something-year-old self of mine, I would have really appreciated that. I didn't get that. And I am doing my best to make sure I do that for everyone who comes through my life. So yeah, I think it's really inspiring to hear all of you guys talking about what you do and what you want to create. And I think you should absolutely continue to do that. This is awesome.
There was a company that I had a conversation with, and I really liked their perspective because it's actually a learning center here in the United States called eCami, and what they're doing is they're pairing up the older generations with the younger generations so that both can be mentors to each. And it's really interesting because the older generations have a lot of knowledge with how to use their hands and the soft skills that the younger generation sometimes is missing out on because of all the advancements in technology that we have. But the younger generation is really tech savvy. So the founder purposely pairs them up together so that they can each learn from each other, but also teach each other in the areas that they thrive in. And I thought that was a really interesting concept, especially with modern day manufacturing and engineering and all the opportunities that are opening up with automation and industrial Internet of Things.
I've got to bail. You guys continue the conversation. I wish I could be part of this still. This is an awesome conversation.
Thank you, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Keep being cool. Keep being yourself. Keep being awesome. Round of applause to everyone on this call. This was a great conversation.
Thank you, Ed.
See you later.
Ed.
Reach out to me on LinkedIn if you want, or somewhere else where you see me. So,
Meaghan, you posted in our little Zoom chat, and we can post that link into our YouTube chat as well. It's a book that you found a lot of value. Can you just tell us more about that book?
Yeah, so when I was starting my journey in entrepreneurship with Mavens and my freelance work, one of my mentors actually suggested this book to me. It's called Crucial Conversations, and it just provides some tips and examples of when confrontational conversations happen, how to kind of guide them so that you're making the conversation comfortable for all. I think that's common among all conversations where, you know, depending on what our personal experiences are, we can take something the wrong way when it's not intentional, and vice versa. Sometimes we can say something to someone else and they take it the wrong way. So it really provides a good set of tips and techniques on how to take an uncomfortable conversation and make it more comfortable for everyone involved.
That's some good advice, because like I was going to ask that, say for example, Jonny says something that, sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, thanks, dude. I feel like I'm getting put under the bus.
But say for example, one of you has an idea and Jonny brushes under the carpet. How would you feel if I called him out right there and then about that? Or is that something you'd some of you would feel more comfortable dealing with it in a more private setting, or, you know, that's what I'm trying to get is how would we need to handle a situation for you?
What would be the preferred method then and there, or after the session is closed?
I mean, it's kind of like what Chin-loo says, read the room, but should us men start calling each other out on this?
It really depends.
Yeah.
I personally think it depends on what action was taken that might have been awkward, and also your relationship with the other person, as well as the other people in the room. Because one of the things I don't like is when special treatment is put upon me. Though I want equality, not special treatment.
Yep.
So if someone is being put into this awkward position, it's actually not a good way of educating them and helping them understand why they should have done that. A good way is to, if you know, Kirby, if you know Jonny is a certain type of person who may not like to be called out because he instantly will defend himself and it might make the situation worse, absolutely do it afterwards. Take a note, But if you have a really good relationship with Jonny, as you do, and you can joke about it and be like, I wouldn't necessarily say it that way, Jonny. You might want to, consider the other perspective.
Yeah.
And it kind of might open that topic up for other people to weigh in as well and actually help in supporting and advocating that whatever was done that might have been awkward. So
Kirby,
that's my voice. I don't know about everyone else.
Kirby, that question also bakes into it the idea that whoever the other person is can't defend themselves, right? They can absolutely do that. If you were to look at that, 4 personality types, or however you want to look at engineering teams, some people don't have that confrontational personality type. You may actually be making it worse.
It's
that book touches on some of that, so I highly recommend that book because it really helps with how to handle those types of conversations.
Yeah, it's sort of project management 101.
So Jason Pole's in our chat. He said that was a great answer, Chin-loo.
I'm not following a chat, but thanks. I think the other thing is like the worst thing you could do is ignore it as if it never happened. That would have been like the no-no.
It needs some action, but it depends on the situation and who it is, and
read the room.
Yeah, read the room and deal with it appropriately.
Yeah, it is something that I think a lot of men are uncomfortable with, but we are moving more forward and kind of understanding, and I think it's having these kind of conversations that really helps out to understand it. And unfortunately, there's going to be some of those men that just be straight up no, not having it. Hopefully, as Casey has said that in our chat, women in engineering have come a long way since I started in the profession, but there's still a long way to go for full equality. I think we need to have more and more of these kind of conversations and highlight. And like I was saying, you guys are role models in your own light to your own communities. You're always showing off, what you can do if you really, push yourself.
And I think
go ahead.
No, but like you said, there's some that aren't going to ever get it. I think those are the ones that make me want to do better, succeed more, and show off that I can do it to them.
It is a good feeling when you can really prove someone wrong.
Not to be that way, but
it's completely fine to be that way.
What I was going to say is in our industry, this is especially important, right? Because Meaghan, you briefly touched on this, but as we start pushing into automation and as we design products for the general public, we have baked in biases in our designs, in our AI, right? In these computational decision-making software, right? So all of that has to be That has to be thought out. Otherwise, we end up designing a self-driving car that is happy to, you know, run over women and children to save the men, right? And that's obviously not true. But our industry is it's very important to have this sort of diversity and equity brought to the forefront.
Like things that Betty Baker and Bridie are doing in terms of, you're not just focusing on just engineers or designers. There's a whole world out there of so many different industries, professions, that anyone can get involved in. And it's kind of opening the eyes to showing off that, you know, you can work for a very high-tech company, but you don't have to be the engineer designing things. You could be working on the, you know, on the accounts team or the R&D team, sales. There's plenty of room in the... Sorry, someone's been going mad in our chat.
I got it.
Nice one.
I'm on it tonight, thankfully.
And what John Matrician says, that we could all use some perspective. He's got that word written on his wall. And I think that's really, really helpful. Like, you might tell a story and I'll be like, yeah, I get that. That's kind of happened to me. It's maybe, you know, it has, but it's not in the same perspective. You know, it's understanding how it affects you versus me.
Yeah, we run into this just even in manufacturing, not just of men and women, but people don't even realize like what fields are out there. You know, the students don't realize it. I'm in a very small town and they think you either work in the office or you work in the dirty factory. So it's like, you know, you not only have the male female things going on, but like in the manufacturing role, it's like they don't realize all of the different careers that are out there. And it's like these kids nowadays just need to hear this, need to see this, what's out there. They don't know.
Yeah, we like a friend of mine owned a factory, and you know, even then, my thinking was you have the office, that's all the people, the suits, and you got the dirty people. And my perspective was, you know, that's where all the men work, and all the ladies are in the offices. But like walking through Johnny's factory, along all the assembly lines, it's just there's a good amount of women and men just working together, building things.
Yeah, we have a, you know, it's maybe not quite 50-50 yet, but we're probably 40-60.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to add to what Betty said about kind of understanding what it's like out there. I was doing this program called Digits a few years ago. I don't think it exists anymore in the Boston area, where they're matching female professionals, especially in minority groups, to go into elementary schools and talk about STEM and STEAM. And they had this great deck of cards, but they were all letters, and each letter was designed to look like a profession in STEAM. So we would, as part of the dialogue, I was talking about, you know, I described what I knew of how it was to be a researcher, a scientist, and an engineer, and like a civil engineer, the different types of engineers, and who comes into play when you're designing the television on the wall. You know, I talked about this. And it just felt so good I would walk into a classroom of 12-year-olds, and you got the cliques, right? You got the popular kids on one side, you got the ones that are really noisy, and then you have the few like wallflowers in the back. And there was this group, especially this one girl. She was kind of gothish, but it's like modern goth. I don't know what it's called nowadays, but my generation was called goth. And she was sitting in the back, kind of just staring to the side, not turned towards me, but almost away from me, and just, you know, not paying attention. So I took it upon myself that she was my target audience at that day, that moment. And I try to speak to it, and any kind of body language twitch, I was like pulling off of it. At the end of the whole session, as they were all kind of thanking me as they walk out the door, she was one of the last people to walk through, and she looked up at me and she's like, that was pretty cool. Thanks. And she walked away. I'm like, oh my God, I made a difference. So I think like things like this, I totally agree with you, Betty. Like if you have an opportunity to help shine a light on what it feels like to be in that world and what goes into it, I think people start realizing that it's not unachievable. It's not something that I can't relate to. And like I remember having a conversation with my niece one time, and she was really young, and she was running around and she was saying, oh, I love these beautiful mansions that I'm seeing. Like she's looking through the social media, and then someone in the family made a comment like, well, the only way you're gonna get it is if you marry a rich guy. And I blew up. I was like, no, you go to college, you become blah blah blah, and this is what you can do. This is make, you know. So I went to my little like crazy rant, but in a nice auntie way, aunt way. And it's just, I think they just don't get it unless someone steps up and share that kind of knowledge. And I think anyone can be a great role model. We've lived it. So it's great to hear that you guys are doing, and I totally agree. As many as possible. You don't have to be a woman, a man, or whatever. Just do it. You guys all have family members and people you touch every single day. I think it's really nice that you guys take the time to do it.
It's really true. And I think a big thing as well, and it's kind of touching on what you said, Betty, is about telling or educating on people that they have the skills to work in this environment. Yeah, they might not be an engineer, but they do have great communication skills, they have great time management skills, they have great organizational skills, they have all of these skills at their wealth that they might have, you know, they might not even think that they've actually even got them, you know. Someone who is the chatty one in class, well, that was me. Here I am chatting away. Continue, but you know, you've got that communication skill. Look where it'll take you. Like, it will take you really far. And I think it's just giving young people the confidence that just because you didn't say you wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer or go down this linear path doesn't mean that you aren't going to be successful and you aren't going to be able to, you know, like you said, Chin-loo, buy yourself a mansion. You can be, and you just need people, you know, hopefully like us, talking to you and showing you, you know, real life examples of those situations. And we had so talking on as well of, again, working in an engineering environment without being an engineer is, I guess, my point of this bit. But we recently had a young graduate join us in a marketing team, and I was doing a meeting with her, and she was saying, oh, I don't really know much about CAD, I'm a bit worried, how am I going to be able to do this? And I was like, honestly, don't worry. When I first started, I was exactly the same. I was like, you've got other skills that are going to make you so successful, and you know, you can learn all the terminology and all that afterwards, but your personality and your attributes and skills that you've got now is what's going to take you, you know, and be really successful here. And it's just, sometimes you need to hear that, I think, from someone that's been in the same situation, someone who knows someone that's been in the same situation. And I think all of us here can vouch for that massively, that we can sort of share that insight, and we are, you know, sharing that insight, and we'll continue to do so. So yeah. I think it's important too to like tell parents that as well, because I think parents still have a misconception of what's truly available to kids now in engineering and manufacturing. I have a nephew who's on the autistic spectrum, and he's obsessed with video games. And my sister-in-law was really, really concerned and worried that that's what he found comfort in. And come to find out, he built his own computer, which I'm still in awe of, because I would not even know where to start. And he's now going through driver's ed, trying to get his license, and she's 100% completely worried, which I can understand, but I try to connect with her and tell her all of the great opportunities that he can take part in because of his autism. And I was like, if he can build his own computer like on his own just by watching YouTube videos, like think what he could do if you can just push him a little bit more towards this side of things. And I've had conversations with him, and he's like, I really don't understand why people are so like fascinated by what I do, because he's so blunt and no filter just because of his autism. And it's funny to watch, and it's great to learn from him as well too, because he does see things differently. And I've had conversations, and he already has a plan of what he wants to do, and he wants to be a video game engineer, but he doesn't know what the right term is for it. I don't even know what the right term is for that, but he it's just really cool to see him like excel in that area, because everybody else thought that that was not going to be an opportunity for him because he was so obsessed with video games. But yeah, I'm excited to see where he ends up and how that grows, because I wouldn't even know where to start to build my own computer, and he did it within a few days. It was awesome.
Sorry, we're dealing with a bot that's just spamming our chat.
So I have a question, Kirby, if you don't mind.
Go
I
for
kind
it.
of staggered in here mid-conversation, so I don't know if you touched on this or not. Chin-loo, I think you touched on it. I mean, you didn't say these exact words in your talk earlier. But what is your thought about the golden rule, right? The golden rule, right, is simply stated, do unto others as you want them to do to you, or however you would like to rephrase that. But like, what are your thoughts on that from a design perspective, or from a female perspective, or from whatever perspective?
Is that directed at me? I'm happy to answer. I just want to know if you're opening.
No,
up.
this is just this is a general question.
Well, I can jump in first. I have so I'm not a practicing Buddhist, but I grew up as a Buddhist. So there's definitely the eye for an eye kind of mentality in the way we approach life. And so I've always lived by that rule. I would not do unto others if, I don't expect the same done to myself. But as you've heard, I think from this group of amazing women, it's not realistic for someone a male who's in this kind of environment that's really optimized for a primarily male environment, to be able to kind of expect the same thing to be done to someone else who's not like them. And I'm learning that as I'm getting more aware of all of these varieties of perspectives. I would still say it's a good basic rule, but just be more I don't know what the right word is, but more aware beyond the point of, because you could have a privileged life, and you could have a very specific type of lifestyle that you're used to, and you have certain rules that make sense, and you live by them. But in that action, you could very well offend someone else who didn't grow up in the environment, and you wouldn't know it because you think you're living by a rule that makes sense. So I would say absolutely be more aware, be more educated about these diverse perspectives. Then the rule really should be do unto others as they would like to have done. You need to find out what it is okay for those people, and then engage the whole conversation, social aspects of knowing where those people are coming from, what are the things that their values are, and respect that, and be that way for them. And then you yourself can do the same, advocate for yourself, and so other people know how to treat you. So that's my answer. I know it's kind of wishy-washy, but that's kind of where I've come to in my understanding in the world, and I try to teach that to my kids. But yeah, hope that answered your question.
Oh yeah, that was the softball that I lobbed up there, and you knocked it out of the park.
That brings us all back to community, doesn't it? And that's why we're all here. That's why we're spending 3 days together, whether or not we're talking about this particular topic or anything. We want to be a community, and we want to share.
I think it comes down to respect, just respecting each other. And, like I said, even just working with the kids now, and it's giving them the respect and just giving them that little bit of hope of what's out there, and that the whole world isn't terrible, and there is a good future out there. And I guess even showing them that probably where you think you're going to end up is not where you're going to end up. I mean, even for all of us, did anybody follow a straight line in your career path? I'm guessing none of us did. None of us said, this is where I want to be in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. It's, showing them that you're going to keep growing constantly and changing and evolving every single day of your career.
It's so true, Betty. I actually had a conversation with my oldest son who he's in college and he's in his junior year and he's like, Mom, I don't think I'm on the right track to becoming what I said I was going to be. I'm like, so I mean, I didn't know. And I had a very similar conversation with him where I was just like, no one goes from point A to point B, and that's the destination. We just go with what makes sense at the time. And this, I just heard this quote recently on NPR. I think it was like
At least if
a
they're
show,
going to
and they
spam
said,
us, they could at least
do what you
subscribe.
can with what you have where you are. And that's literally like, you know, just do that, and then every part of your path in life will bring you to the place that you eventually will be, and hopefully you're happy there. So absolutely, Betty, I'm 100%, 200% agreement with you. But I wish I knew that also when I was younger. So I'm trying really hard to kind of impart that to my children. But yeah, absolutely.
I mean, yeah, it's.
So, oh, sorry.
Go for it, Heather.
I knew as soon as I spoke, Kirby was going to
I
speak.
even see you put your hand up at one point as
I
well.
did. I did this. I was like a little school child, right? Sorry, I was late. I was over on SolidWorks Live for a little while, but I think it's really important. I think you were talking about, you know, talking to our kids, but listening to what they have to say, like Chin-loo with your son saying, you know, he doesn't know if this is what he wants. A lot of us, our parents would have been like, just stop talking and go to school, and you're going to do this because we've paid for that, you know, but listening and not waiting to just talk and give them our knowledge, right? But really listening, because I was 45 years old when I finished my bachelor's degree in marketing. I'm only 49 right now. So it was just 4 years ago that I was able to finish it, because my path was very jagged to get to where I am today. And I want all of our kids to know that there's so much pressure on them, right? To go the prescription, right? You finish high school, you have to go to university, whether it's a 2-year or a 4, you know, this is the path that our parents taught us. And I think everybody's path is completely different. I was talking to someone earlier today about working in machining, and there's a place in our town here has a $20,000 sign-on bonus right now for people to go take a job working at a machine shop doing mold technician. And it's just amazing. So there's so many different paths that our kids can take, and listening and giving them those opportunities, whether it's helping them build up skills, you know, through programs like, you know, FIRST or other STEM related activities, or just listening to them, because maybe they're not even ready for that secondary step. They've just been, for the past 12 or 13 years, they've been asking permission to go use the restroom during class. The day after graduation, we're expecting them to know what they want. And I think that's not fair, right? And, but we kind of had that path, and some of us, again, zigzagged a bit, but I just wanted to chime in. And my uncle said to me once, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. So
Yes.
good. Thanks for hosting.
Congratulations to you on getting your bachelor's. That's awesome. I think you hit the nail right on the head, because I have a daughter who's graduating this year, and I was part of a generation where college was like ingrained. If you want to be successful, you have to go to college. And I think that was one of the reasons why I almost flunked out, because I wanted to be rebellious and didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I never had someone to say, hey, it's okay if you decide to go this route instead of that route. So I'm really trying hard to not be overly worried with my daughter and the decisions that she makes. I want to allow her that freedom to make those choices, which is really hard when you're a parent, because
Really
you worry
hard.
about your kids. But I told her, I said, you know, if you're not ready to go to college, because she decided she wants to be a surgical nurse. I told her, I was like, you know, if you're not ready to go to college, it's okay to not do that. Travel the world, get some of that real life experience, and learn about other areas. Go outside of the United States, travel to other countries, be part of, you know, different communities, and learn about different cultures, because I really feel like that helps to grow. And I never really had that opportunity. I went to Germany. That's really the only place that I've been outside of the United States, and it was a lot of fun for me, because I learned about so many different things that I didn't even know existed. And now I want to make it a point to go to different countries. I'm a late bloomer in that respect, but I'm trying to get that ingrained in her so that if she doesn't want to go to college, just to have her feel like, you know, it's okay if you don't know what you want to be and you decide what you want to be later on in life. So I think your story is really influential, Heather, in that regard.
And there's so much pressure on it though, you know, because where my kids are grown now, you know, 24, 25 years old, we were just ahead of the wave of social media, right? So now it's like there's so much pressure. There was pressure to perform before, but now there's that additional pressure because, you know, our kids, or not even, we don't have to have kids. We see it in adults. It's like, you know, sharing achievements, posting those college acceptance letters, sharing the photo of the cute little dorm room that's been decorated by, you know, the young person. You know, it's all puts pressure on each other to kind of be and do and you know, arrive at a certain place. And I think it's up to us as mentors in any way. Like I said, it doesn't even have to be for our kids. The hardest thing, I think, what I did watch with my daughter, because I can give a personal anecdote, is I actually was able to speak with her because she was uncertain about what she wanted to do as far as her education path. And I don't want to use the words convinced, but somehow she took my advice and she went to community college for 2 years, but she was able to save herself some pressure, you know, a little bit of financial, you know, burden and down the road. But the hardest part was, you know, she watched her friends go off to school, but once they were gone, everything was just fine. But it was like, it was that stigma that they needed to be at a certain place. And we've always, you know, sometimes my philosophy is a little bit different than some other parents that I know, but, you know, for me, happiness comes first in a lot of situations, because at the end of the day, you want to put your head on the pillow at night and you want to feel good about who you are, not necessarily what you've been able to achieve by others' expectations. And so I'll stop talking now, because it'll be the podcast. It'll be the core podcast by Heather Hasz.
Well, that's perfectly fine.
Sorry.
Like we
and you all can't discount the idea that you are the best role models that your daughters can have, right? To see you all in that position is amazing. And your children are so lucky to have you pushing them in whatever directions they decide to get, or guide them, not push them. Sorry.
But Dan, I'll say to you, and not because she's in the room, but Maria has been such a huge role model for me. Meaghan, I don't know that you know, because I came in late, but I work with both Bridie and Maria. I came on and joined the DriveWorks team in the US about 6 years ago. And, you know, I had always admired Maria as a mentor, as a woman in engineering, as a professional woman. But very often, even in my own personal life, I think, what would Maria do? And we kind of joke about that. But sometimes when you have somebody that just inspires you to just take a minute and rethink about something, like that little influence makes a big, you know, a big impact. So
thank you, Heather.
so happy hour, ladies. Happy hour. It's happy hour.
Yeah. I do have to get going, but I just wanted to thank all of you for sharing your stories and experiences. This is a fantastic group, and thank you, Jonathan and Kirby, for inviting me. I hope to be back again tomorrow. I am going to leave my LinkedIn information in the chat, so feel free to connect with me. I would love to keep this conversation going outside of this room as well too. So have a great day, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us, Meaghan.
Bye.
Thank you.
I mean, yeah, her podcast is just awesome. It really is. Glad that she joined us. I'm glad all of you have joined us. I mean, it's been a good, like, Jonny and I were a bit distracted there, and then there was someone.
We had a bit of a bot fight.
we had to handle, but it went exactly the way that I wanted it. I wanted it to be a place where, you know, not a conversation led by us, but just a natural conversation flying around.
Flowing conversation that moves from point to point, and we just sit back and enjoy.
A lot of people in the comments have been really enjoying it. We got Tutal Toby in there enjoying it. Josh Mays is enjoying it. Casey says, "Wish more men were." I hope that more men are listening to this. I mean, I'm gonna snippet this and upload it as its own separate video, so you'll be able to share it and pass it on to all your friends and that. There was another comment. Tutor Toby says he loves hearing all the perspectives and situations you're sharing. I think that's what we all like to hear, and that'll help us learn, how can we make things better, how we can change for the future. Go for it, Chin-loo.
No, I was just going to add to the comments that we were talking about with our children. I also want to emphasize, and especially since everyone's kind of acknowledging the information that's shared here, that I have 2 boys, and I have not stopped teaching them how to be advocates for diversity and equity and all that stuff. So I don't think this is something that's like, empower your daughters. This is empower
It's
your
everyone.
children.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed.
So for everyone who's listening, and yeah, the folks here obviously know, but I want my boys to grow up to be respectable people and also respecting other people.
Yes.
So,
It starts at home.
Yep.
And maybe the people, men won't, some men won't change now, but maybe they'll look at a conversation like this and think, hang on, I'm going to teach my kids not to make the mistakes I made. I mean, I'm certainly going to do that. We've got a wild Sean.
Oh, look
Hey.
who it is.
I'm here. Who else is here? I just jumped into the Zoom.
We're all here.
Oh, what's up, Heather?
We're hiding.
I'm just talking to you.
I know.
I'm actually, I don't know if you guys, I just caught up with Mark Johnson and Patrick Gallagher, that crazy hardware certification lab. So I figured I'm like going back to the main building where we're doing SolidWorks Live. So I figured I'd jump on.
Fresh air. You need fresh air.
That's true. It's very true.
It's what Johnny and I did this morning. We needed that fresh air.
We went for a walk.
Yeah.
And a coffee. Got some air.
I caught a good bit. I was able to catch a good bit of your conversation with Mark Algar. I thought that was so cool how you guys like inserted like just a different element of creativity into the show.
A wild Australian has joined us, and his name is Michael Lord.
We've got some intro music to play for.
Oh, here we go.
So I've always believed that Sean looks a little bit like Eminem. So we got an intro song for you as well. We'll wait for Matt to join because he's always enjoyed this one.
Is that? Oh, there we
go.
Sean O'Neill.
There we go. Oh man, you guys are the best.
It's true. Sean, we worked out my new intro song too. Do you guys have that?
Not yet. We're
Green
working
Onions.
on it.
All right.
We're gonna find the right song.
And
That's
Michael's intro.
We got Michael's. Don't worry.
Yeah, mate, that's not a knife. This is a knife.
And mine is for later in the day.
Yeah, yours is for after hours, but we'll give you a sneak peek.
Welcome to the core after dark.
To the core after dark. Oh my God.
I mean, it's dark
Right.
outside for us.
Are you guys using the soundboard that you just made?
No.
No.
So some
dang.
years ago, we had a discussion about having Michael do an overdub on the entrance when everyone's going to run into SolidWorks World into the general session of being the crocodile hunter and talking about how everybody in the hallway and they're in their natural environment and then the big rush. I think you guys should still do that.
Crikey, that was dangerous.
That.
Too dangerous.
Crikey.
We can.
Got a
Okay,
live one,
I'll
yeah.
write it down and we can go back.
But no, we were having some good chat.
No, it's been an absolute, and all those that were kind of listening on have really enjoyed the conversation that we've had here, and those that have been listening, I'm sure you've hopefully taken something from it.
Did you guys make Matt talk about his new baby yet?
He's mentioned it a few times, but if you want to mention it again, Matt.
I'm actually mad. I'm bummed that Matt can't be here. I was looking forward to getting him on the bright lights at SolidWorks Live.
You know what?
SolidWorks.
We've had
oh, there she is.
We've had a lot of babies on the channel this week.
Yeah, it's babies and puppies.
Word. So cute.
So cute.
Hazel.
Oh, Hazel.
She's been sitting and helping me write emails this morning.
I mean, it passes as a good excuse this year, Matt. But next year,
No more kids. I'll let my wife know.
Already decided. It's been how long?
Yeah,
hopefully
I'll be a world with the baby Bjorn walking around.
Hopefully, in the future, Hazel will be part of a conversation like this, and hopefully the conversation will be a lot more.
It's been a very
in a different direction.
It's a very good chat the last hour and a half. I've enjoyed listening to it and chiming in where necessary. But yeah, it's nice to bring it to the surface because it needs addressing and progressing in the future even more than it has been so far.
And thanks for letting me barge in. That was
Well, like I said, this is the hallways. We have, picture us just outside of a session or the the playground having this conversation. You ran into us,
Chilling with a week-old baby. It's no big deal.
Just another 3D experience world.
Regular
Dan.
old
Guys.
experience.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, Bridie.
Hello, you okay?
How's it going?
Really good. You're just saying, like Kirby and Jonny just said then, it's been a really good chat all about women in engineering, and even not necessarily you are a woman, but but you aren't an engineer is what I meant to say. It's late here now, it's 8:30. The words have gone.
We can wear wigs tomorrow.
But it's been really inspiring. I know that especially, I think I speak on especially on behalf of Maria, Heather and myself, we're massively passionate about this field and just being able to speak with all these great women in here. I'm definitely going to go to bed very happy and inspired this evening. So thank you very much, especially Kirby and Jonny, for putting this on, and for everyone for the great conversations. I feel very proud to have been a part of it.
Yeah, I think we'll probably snip this into an hour-long segment as well.
Yeah.
So it'll have a place permanently on our channel.
I mean, you all are welcome. You're all entitled to your own full episode.
Yeah,
so.
I was thinking similar. We can,
We've got a lot of guests.
Definitely.
Hazel's giving me a thumbs up, so I think we're good.
She'll be the first guest.
Okay, perfect.
Guest number 1.
I'm going to head off now, guys. So I'm just going to say thank you again very much.
Good night, Bridie.
I look forward to having more of these conversations in the future.
Yes,
so I'll join tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much.
See you.
Bye.
I'm gonna jump off. I have another segment coming on. I just wanted to come on and say hi to you guys.
Just quickly, Sean. Josh May says you've done a great job these last couple of days. Truly, dude, you have been
on fire.
On fire. You in front of the camera has been awesome. It's like you were born for it.
And Sean, if you've got any spare grey shirts,
dude, it's hard. It's honestly hard being next to Brian, because Brian is, I don't know. I feel like he's on a whole other level. So that compliment means a lot. And yeah, really, like, the world has been so different. Obviously, we're trying to kind of makeshift, find a theme, just kind of showing you guys the whole campus. I think we've utilized it well, but really I think what's been keeping me going is just to try as best as possible to put on a good show for you guys, and to have interesting conversations, interesting people. Like, we're talking to over 50 people this week, all different industries. So yeah, hope we're delivering.
Yes, and Toby's in the chat as well. He enjoyed the conversation.
Awesome.
Yeah,
he's happy that we hosted this all together. We're gonna try and rope him in here at some point.
Gotta get him in. Yeah, he's the best. But guys, I appreciate it. I'll catch up soon.
Thanks, Sean.
See you guys.
Thanks, Sean.
Bye.
Whilst we've all been in here, I've got a second monitor over here, and I can see everything that's going on the YouTube channel.
Yes.
So at one point I had Chin-loo here, and I had Chin-loo over there as well.
So
it's amazing with technology what we're able to access now. It's great. So I'm going to head off as well myself now. I'm going to cook some dinner, and I'll maybe take you all into my kitchen whilst I go and make that dinner. I'm not losing you, but I'll see you online again soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again,
Maria.
Good to see you, Maria.
Bye.
Bye.